So welcome back to our second episode for www.wix or Wise Words with Wix. This time we'll be talking about leadership. So we're going to begin with a few questions, just going down about the experience of all the different student leaders we have here. Before we get into that, let's do a quick introduction for everyone. So my name is Arshi Hildial. I am the president of Women in Computer Science.
And I'm Yuming. I am the webmaster of Women Computer Science.
Hello, my name is Galvin Wong. I'm the treasurer for SACE and also a counselor for Camp Delta.
Hello, I'm Andrew. I'm the president of Formula SAE, also known as Tiger Racing.
Hello, my name is Faris, and I am the president of SACE LSU, Society of Asian Scientists and Engineers.
And my name's Jacob Bernard. I'm the president of SPM, or the Society of Peer Mentors.
Hello, my name is Ronald. I am the vice president of SSL, also known as the Security Society at LSU.
All right. So we're going to go ahead and go into the questions. So the first question is, what initially inspired you to take on a leadership role? And how did you overcome any doubts or challenges at the start?
So personally for me, I was kind of asked into doing leadership, and this was mainly inspired due to my charisma and like my vision to always kind of like make things better. And I think that's like something that's super important as a leader is that there's always finding ways for improvement, and you should never stay stagnant and complacent with where you are because there's always way to kind of get better. I think like one of the main challenges was that I never thought I was ready, but I feel like being prepared is like not being prepared is just something that always comes with us, and like there's always going to be good examples ahead of you. So for instance, like the previous president for SACE, Aaron, has done a really good job being a very good role model for us, and kind of taking a look at these amazing role models in front of us kind of helps propels me forward to being better and kind of like helping out the clubs and kind of improving my own leadership. Um, Andrew, what else do you have to say about that?
All right, so I'd like to piggyback on a lot of that, and also I'm influenced a lot by, Galvin. I know that he's very big in SACE, and so whenever I got called up essentially to this position, I was trained to become vice president, so I didn't wasn't ready really for being president. So there was a lot to learn and improve from. But I had the previous president, I was able to talk to him a lot, and also I have a team of people on Tiger Racing that's able to, help me around and be able to distribute my workload pretty easily. So I'm also able to focus on a lot of other things and mend back a lot of the relationships with the university. So Faris, would you like to add on to that?
Yeah, so I'm gonna be honest. When I first tried to do a leadership role, it was like freshman year, and I want to be webmaster for SACE. That didn't really pan out well. I kind of just wanted to do it for a resume booster. Um, it was sort of something that I just wanted to dive into. I had a little bit of experience in high school, and I didn't. I felt like I did a pretty good job, so I wanted to try to do it again in college and get some more experience. Um, I tried again my sophomore year. Did webmaster to be during my junior year, and now I'm a senior as president. And the whole journey kind of made me understand like what I wanted to be as a leader, or the whole journey is just trying to understand how you can lead or what you can do to impact your community. I think that's like one of the really big things. It's not just, there's like two sides to being a leader. And one is developing yourself and trying to improve yourself and how you can go forward. The other one is also like giving back to your community, serving them, kind of showing them how you can help them and how they can help you, a two-way street. It's kind of the main reasons why I stayed to be a leader, and became president of SACE. Some challenges at first. It's kind of daunting to go from webmaster to president. There's a lot of unknowns, especially since we're a club that started right when COVID happened. So we're fairly new compared to a lot of other organizations on campus. And there's a lot of unknowns, a lot of things that we're trying to do, new things that we have to test out. Um, I think one of the main things is not being afraid of trying out new things. doing whatever you can. I think one of the main things, or one of the good things about college, is that it's kind of a testing ground. You have the resources, you have the ability to try out new things, and you don't have consequences that'll affect your future. It's not like a job where if you fail at it, the whole company will come like crashing down. We are student orgs at the end of the day, and I think that gives us a lot of freedom to do new things. And I think that's one of the reasons that allows me to try out new stuff and overcome some challenges. I think Jacob wants to say some stuff now.
Yeah, kind of similar to Forrest actually. So I wasn't on the e-board previously before becoming president. I was just the outreach chair for SPM. But I'd been in the org since I started at LSU my freshman year, which was a long time ago, as it's well documented with some of our members. They don't let me forget how old I am. But yeah, I started out in outreach chair, and a lot of our upperclassmen, a lot of graduating seniors were moving on out, and I kind of saw an opportunity for myself to step into that role. But more so, I felt like it was about kind of wanting to pay forward all the great mentorship and experiences that I had received from the previous years of leaders that had come through the organization. And I kind of felt almost like a responsibility to pay that forward because we've once I transitioned like into that role, I'm now like one of the older upperclassmen in the Oregon. We're fairly young compared to what we'd used to be. So that combined with just some of the uh, hardships and trials that I've faced over the years through school, I just really felt like I had kind of a unique perspective to offer to our younger general body.
All right. And for me, I've been doing leadership positions since I was really young, right? Elementary, middle, and high school. I have just been born and raised to do leadership positions and to help others. And so when I came to college, I spent my freshman year looking for that opportunity to lead others. And I found SSL, right? I was interested in cybersecurity, so I joined that club, and it was run by grad students at the time. So, like masters and PhD students just having fun, doing really technical things. And so they wanted the club to start being run by undergrads after them, because clubs are not really supposed to be run by grad students. And so they found that opportunity to make that happen in me. Because I came in and I said that I wanted to lead the club. I didn't have too much experience in cyber, but I was willing to learn, and it has taught me a lot. It has taught me how to teach people. It has taught me like the good and bad of leadership. It has taught me good and bad things about myself. And I've learned from other like students who are way better leadership than I am on how to become an effective leader. And I will be taking that into my professional life in trying to lead people there. So yeah.
Awesome. And I think to end off, my experience has been very similar to everyone else's on the board. I too kind of was just pushed into it as vice president my sophomore year of Society of Women Engineers. And I think I took a long time learning what it means to be a true leader. I didn't really have very much leadership experience prior to that in my high school years. So it took some time to learn. And then moving forward into the president role for Women in Computer Science was kind of a difficult transition since we also kind of began very recently. We're in our third year, so we're at the point where we're really solidifying our processes and creating proper procedures. And I think that can be very difficult, a real challenge to really create those systems. But it's very rewarding to be able to have something concrete kind of come out of your time here. So for that, I think I really enjoy this position.
All right, thank you for sharing your experience. It is really interesting to see that. And then moving on to the next question. How has being on the e-board helped you to grow as a leader for both personally and professionally?
I know for me, working with my e-board has taught me a lot You kind of learn to struggle with the people that you work with, and sometimes you're successful and sometimes you're not. And like, I think that success teaches you some things, but failure teaches you way more. But when it comes to like kind of like growth in the personal aspect, there's always going to be a lot of people with a lot of different personality types. I know for Forrest, he's a lot more of a logical type person, and I'm more of like a feeling type person. So like usually I like there's certain things that I kind of go for that are more based on vibes and some things that are based more on logistics. And sometimes you kind of know what works for you and what doesn't. And sometimes you have to make sure that, there's a good balance between making sure that, whatever you do communicates well with your members, because at the end of the day, a club is always for the general members. And also kind of making sure that everything's run smoothly with proper logistics, proper planning. And, a lot of this stuff like that teaches me personally is that, there's going to be a lot of different personalities that you work with, and sometimes like having someone that might be the polar opposite as you can kind of help you grow in a way and teach you new things. And these new things can actually be quite beneficial because I've actually applied a lot more of a realistic mindset currently in my own leadership, and kind of just trying to be a lot more attentive to the smaller details and understanding like, there are some things that you should always prepare for. Like there's always some small things. And like when it comes to like professionally, I think like one of the basic answers that people will always say is communications. But communication is like something that that never like kind of like runs out the door. Communication is so important because like not only do you always have to be kind of like outspoken, you must also be like a good listener. So as a very big extrovert myself, like I'm like naturally pretty loud, and I'm like very outgoing. I like to kind of talk a lot, and especially like in a group environment. But communication doesn't mean you always have to talk. Communication sometimes mean you also have to listen as well. And this kind of goes back to what I said previously about learning different people's styles. Like people always tell introverts to kind of like talk more, but sometimes the extroverts just need to talk less and kind of listen more, because that's kind of like the situation whenever I started to listen more and listen to my board, especially, and kind of take in different ideas. Because sometimes these introverts have really amazing ideas, but they find difficulty speaking about them. So sometimes I like to use my own personal voice to kind of amplify their own. And sometimes, like, whenever you take all these kind of like ideas, mix them together, and kind of, put them all together into one final product, you realize that, everyone um, is just like good communication styles. But yeah, basically good communication like only goes for not only being a good listener, but a good talker as well. So yeah, communication is what I learned professionally, and personally it kind of like learning with different personalities. Yeah. Andrew?
Yeah, so like Galvin said, there's a lot of communication, and like especially inside Tiger Racing, we're always building a quarter scale Formula car. So it's very important that everyone in the club, within the club, communicates with each other. But like as a leader, it's able to be able to communicate that with people effectively on your team, making sure that everyone stays organized, because if we fall off a schedule, then the car won't be able to be tested on time, and also it won't be able to go to comp possibly. So there's a lot of things that go into being a leader, and you have to step into that shoes sometimes, and sometimes you're not called upon, you're not essentially, I wasn't called into this position, but it fell into my hands. So I ended up being president, and there was a lot to learn inside 2 semesters, last semester and this semester. So being able to take that opportunity and do a lot to represent my student organization, and also my just LSU engineering in general. So it's enabled me to grow personally, but also professionally by landing a internship, and also just being able to, communicate with other clubs like Galvin and with Forest. But yeah, Forest, you want to add on to that?
Yeah, it's really hard to continue the conversation when these two great men have talked a lot about, you know, a lot of the main things that being on e-board helps you grow as a leader. I think one of the things I wanted to highlight, it's not just communication specifically with your board, but also communication with the people around you. So your general members, your sponsors, your advisors, professors, just anybody in general related to you in any way. Because the way you communicate determines how you can transfer thoughts or how you can uh, talk about ideas, or get things done. And so if you don't have those communication skills, it becomes hard to even mediate some conflicts at some point. In my experience, conflicts kind of arise mainly because of miscommunication, and a lot of misinterpretation. So being on eBoard has definitely helped with that communication aspect on my part. And that goes for both professionally and personally. Um, it helps me, keep my friends happy, make sure they enjoy me for who I am, but also I can talk to the sponsors, and kind of give them the attitude that's deserving of SACE as a professional development club specifically. Um, and I think being on eBoard, it also kind of teaches you how to separate yourself from um, any personal issues, take things looking at it as from like an objective perspective per se, because there is a difference between your perspective as a friend versus your perspective as a e-board member. um, and so I'm sure people on this call have experienced their friends maybe like, oh, can I get some free food, or can I get some like small favors here and there. um, and I think sure it's fun to joke around. Like you can be a cool person, right? I'm not saying you have to be all serious or enigmatic or nonchalant all the time, but it's kind of displaying or showcasing who you should be in the moment, relating to the situation. Um, and being on eBoard has definitely helped me understand how to navigate that, and make sure that what I'm portraying is good for being president or just in general e-board member, as a whole.
Yeah, like Forrest says, running out of things to talk about here. But I think for me, for my experiences, especially so I became president of SPM in 2024, and then did it for this past year, and now I'm going into my second year as president with a pretty much entirely new e-board. And so between working with all those different people, there are a lot of different personality types. And I think learning how to manage those people, and how to, the way you communicate with some people is not going to be the most effective way to communicate with other people, just going off of what we've been talking about with communication. And so it's learning the types of people and the different types of like leadership styles and personalities that you have on your board, and being able to figure out what's the most effective way for you to communicate with them and work with them so that you can all succeed together as a group. But I do think for myself personally, one of the things that I've really started to try to improve upon is my own assertiveness as a leader. Um, so I've always been more of like an introverted person and more of like a listener than just an assertive, like, here's what we're gonna do type of thing. And I think it's important to kind of have both sides of that, but especially with the position I'm in now, like going into my second year, having that first year of experience under my belt, uh, I kind of, or at least I feel like I kind of understand the inner workings of our org now better than I did stepping into the role for the first time, and understanding logistically how things play out over the course of a year, and what has been tried and failed in the past, what may not necessarily work. And so I'm able to kind of help guide some of these discussions with the e-board better as, if whether they're trying to make changes or improvements to certain things. Um, Between my experience and our advisor, I think I'm becoming better at being assertive, uh, and kind of taking control of those things and being able to help move us all in the right direction.
I think I want to focus on kind of the relationships that I've obtained while being a leader, right? I've had the amazing opportunity to interact with a lot of different leaders, especially with some of the initiatives that I helped start, like the Computer Science Council, where leaders of computer science clubs are able to interact with each other in a easier way. And so from interacting with certain people like Forrest, like Arushi, I've learned different leadership styles and how different people run their clubs and what it takes to run different types of organizations, right? I've learned about myself. I'm a very easygoing like leader, right? I will ask you to do something. If you don't get it done, I'll get it done. But I expect you to get it done because I expect you have the competency to do it and all that kind of stuff. And then I also like getting hands on myself and doing stuff myself. So I also learned that whenever I go into the professional world, I do not want to be a full-on manager because I want to also still do like some fun tech stuff on the side, right? But learning from different leaders how they lead has helped me kind of implement some of these ideas into my own leadership style, like the concept of delegation, right? Me and Arushi talk about this a lot, right? How like how especially I like to do a lot of different things, right? I get a lot of things done, but I can't do it all. So I have to learn to delegate to other people. And I'm hoping that like I can take some of these ideas and kind of teach them to the next generation of leaders as they start coming up in these different clubs. So yeah.
Awesome. It's funny you bring up delegation because that's what I wanted to kind of focus on from my part of how I've kind of grown. I think being president for a club teaches you a lot of different things, especially since you're the overseer. You kind of have to see the big picture of exactly where the club is at currently, where it's moving going forward, what new things you want to implement, what things you want to change, anything you want to continue. So I think the biggest thing I've understood is how to use my team and work as a team, right? Like Ronald mentioned, I'm also the type of person where I will get it done myself. I will do it quickly, but as someone who's busy myself, and I know many of us on here are very, very busy with things outside of our student orgs as well, it can be difficult to be that perfectionist and just want to get things done just like that. So I think I've really come a long way in understanding exactly how teams work and how people not only communicate with each other to get things done, but also actually implement those systems and then move forward with effective teamwork. Um, yeah, delegation is a huge part of it, understanding what the strengths are of your board members, understanding the places where they can help out best, and then you taking advantage of those strengths that they have, as well as in places where they may have weaknesses, understanding where we can support them and where we can provide that kind of maybe like a parachute, if I can metaphorically describe it. But um, overall, just kind of working as the most effective team that you can do. I think that's something I've really gained from this experience, and I know I'll be taking that moving into my professional life.
I want to jump in real quick about delegation. I have one of the things that I dealt with delegation is that my first year when I was on SACE, I was webmaster, and so I also volunteered to be the hackathon director, which is like an annual event that we put on during our fall for our computer science majors mainly. And while planning that event, my typical style, or I guess whenever I was like 2 years younger, it was a lot of hands-on stuff. I like to do things a lot by myself, or if things can't be done, then I'll just take it up myself. And so you could kind of what is the word? You could kind of compare me to being like a helicopter parent over the people that I was leading for the hackathon. And that was like one of the main feedbacks that I got for planning that event. kind of being too on top of people, doing weekly meetings when we only need to do bi-weekly meetings, and like especially when those meetings didn't have anything going on, they were kind of useless. Um, and that kind of came by nature of who I am as a person. And so the first, I guess, month or two of being president, I kind of went the complete opposite direction. I was almost as laid back as I could have been, and that also led to some problems on its own. Sometimes things weren't being done on time. Sometimes people were slacking on things. I never really picked it up as much as I should have. And I guess that goes to say that learning all of these things does take time. And sure, like all of these experiences that you have, being a leader helps you overcome those obstacles and learn exactly when to do some delegation, when to pick up those tasks, and how to support your team, um, in the best way possible.
All right, thank you. So I also, after being on e-board, didn't realize how much communication delegation has been such a important element of being a leader. So tie into how y'all learned about how important those things are, we're gonna go into the third question. So can you share a specific moment when you faced a very difficult decision as a leader? And how did you handle it? And maybe add on to what did you learn from it?
So for me, it wasn't really more of like a difficult decision. It was more like a difficult time. This was a time like this was literally like probably like 2 or 3 weeks ago. So it's like fairly recent for me. I was like juggling so many different activities at one time. So essentially, I was in SACE, a treasurer in SACE. I had dance practice every Monday and Wednesday, and occasionally every other Friday. What else did I do? I was also an MC for talent auction set 29. I think. And then after that, like, I had a also I was a counselor for Camp Delta. And then after that, I still had to do stuff for bake sale. I had to make cookies. And like, so let me explain what happened. So I had meetings that ran till 12 a.m. 12 a.m. What the anyways, like it was so late that the only time I had to bake cookies this was matcha cookies. Like we ain't talking about like regular chocolate chip cookies. We're talking matcha cookies. These cookies were so bust. Anyways, let me explain what happened. I baked cookies until 3:30 a.m. and I still wasn't done. I had to make the what was it? It's called like the batter, right? You get to make the batter first, and I finished that at 3:30. And my first class starts at 8:30. Wait, yeah, 8:30. And then after that, I was like, man, I'm so tired because I have to wake up like an hour before school starts. Because I like when you get up in the morning, the first thing you do, you rot on your phone. Like you have to rot for like a guaranteed like 30 minutes. Then I get up and I wash my face, brush my teeth. But basically, how is this a difficult time? Oh my goodness. So I had no time for all these things. So basically, I had to learn to juggle my time well. So what do you do? You take it. This is what I hear in industry, and they say it all the time. Like, how do you eat an elephant? Well, you eat one bite at a time. So eventually, you're gonna finish the elephant, right? So this is what I'm the obstacle here. The elephant is all the clubs and stuff I'm doing. And what was I doing? I grabbed this is a spoon. I was taking one bite at a time. It was so much. And like I didn't have a lot of time. And like, dude, this was a time when I actually like had bags. Like I don't know if you could still see them, but bags are like probably there. I don't know if it's still there. But like I was calling my kid sister and she was like, "Oh my God, you got bags now." Bags? Anyways, what did I learn? That's let's come to the conclusion because that was a long story. So many sacrifices must be made. Sacrifice number one, my sleep. Sacrifice number two, it's not really my grades because like I be grinding. Like I stay at school so late all the time that like anyways, that's second sacrifice. I didn't really sacrifice my grades, but I sacrificed my time, which ended up being my sleep. And then after that, oh, I couldn't. I had to keep saying no to my friends. Like they're like, Calvin, you want to go out and eat? No, I had stuff to do. Anyways, what did I learn? Going back to what I learned, I had to learn to say no to things sometimes. Sometimes you can't do it all. I love to do it all and I love to be busy, but you can't do it all the time. Sometimes you can, but then like you might lose your job in the process. So like let's just say do what you can and do what's reasonable. So that's my story for a specific time that was a big struggle as a leader because there's so many things that I was a part of, but I only had this big of a spoon. So yeah, one bite at a time.
I'd like to add on to that. Essentially, I did help Galvin make that batter. So he slaved me away, formula member slaving away at SACE stuff. But anyways,
Wait, wait,
so
wait, wait, wait. Thank you
no,
for helping me. Thank you in advance. Oh, wait, in predecessing times.
he's now saying thank you, by the way. But anyways,
Hey,
Wait,
that's
wait, I
that's
gave
so
you
that
some cookies.
delegation. That's the delegation we're talking about.
We
and
talked about delegation earlier.
leading on to my point. So something that, like for me too, Jacob, essentially I had a difficult time being like affirmative with a lot of my delegation. So it's hard for me to be like, hey, can you do this for me? Because sometimes, some administrative members take a little bit longer time to get things done. So, I end up going in and doing it myself because, I'm just quicker. I just do things and make sure that it gets done. So I go in and do it, but with being able to actually finish school and do formula, it's very difficult to juggle that time. So I have to delegate. So it's something that I've learned a lot as a leader, and that's like one of the most difficult things that I've done as a leader is to delegate stuff and make sure that I trust people on my team and on my administrative team that like, hey, y'all need to get this done on time. And like a lot of the times we've been able to, complete things on time, and that's what I learned a lot as a leader. So
Um, I first want to say I've never heard the phrase "How do you eat an elephant?" Um, I've had two internships so far, and I don't think I've ever heard that phrase. Just wanted to point that out. Second, there's a lot of um, it's like sometimes you don't even realize it, but there's quite a few decisions that you have to make as a leader that are difficult. I think one of the things I want to touch upon is dealing with conflict in general. And I think this may or may not happen, and it's pretty funny because I didn't think it was going to happen to me. But in my interview for like SACE does interviews to be on e-board, and in my interview for president, one of the questions was how would you handle conflict between two e-board members, and so that was a question I never thought I would get to apply. I think navigating that it's it's very interesting because you have to understand not just the situation, but also where both parties are coming from and how both of them are dealing with the situation, and then how you can help with that in that situation, um, and how you can move forward from that as well. And I don't want to go into like too specifics here, but it was a lot of looking at how each person was doing and kind of understanding where they're coming from. And for me personally, that's a hard thing because I, like Galvin mentioned in the beginning, I'm a more of a logical person. Getting in touch with my emotional side has always kind of been hard, sadly. And trying to understand where each person's coming from took a little bit of time, and kind of how I would handle that situation moving forward, making sure that both parties felt that they had their issues presented to each other and they could talk it out. What I ended up doing was having like a kind of conflict resolution talk with them, mediating that discussion between them. And overall, the situation like diffused. Everybody was fine afterwards, moving forward. But the main things that I took away from that is understanding your audience and how not like how situations can affect not just them but also the e-board in general, and how you can do your best as not, maybe you don't have to be a president, but as an e-board member, how you can help support those around you, understand where they're coming from, and help them sort out their situations.
Yeah, I'm gonna touch on a little bit what Andrew talked on and Galvin as well. Um, so first off, I'm very much like and I'm sure most of us here are like this, just very much like a perfectionist. And like, I have a certain way I want to get things done. I have a vision for it in my head. And like, I know that I'm going to do it the way that I want it to. And if I pass it off to someone else, they're not going to get it done the way that I want it to. And to take the time to try and explain it to them or teach it to them in that way, like I feel like at that point, I might as well just do it myself sometimes, right? And so part of that is why I've always really struggled with delegation, like we've been talking about. Um, but over the course of this past semester, especially, I don't know why the schedule worked out this way, but with SPM, we've had so many events going on back to back to back weeks. We had our leadership workshop happening one weekend, and there was a lot of planning that went into that. And then following that, we had our general body meeting, and then we helped plan LCDC, the Louisiana Collegiate Design Competition, and we had a whole Friday evening and whole Saturday doing that. So all of these things happening back to back, and on top of me trying to balance my schoolwork, and I'm an ME, and many of us on this call are, so you know what I'm talking about. It's a struggle, but yeah, I think I had a sit down recently with our advisor, Adrian. Everyone here knows Adrian, I think. She's our director of student leadership and engagement. She's phenomenal. Uh, and so that's one of the things this year that she's really kind of, I guess, challenging me to do, is to really work on that aspect, is to learn how to delegate things to people and be able to kind of just let go and let them grow themselves as leaders as well. And then I can, review their work, and if anything needs to change, then we can fix it there. But um, that's one of the things that, through the strife that I've experienced over the last like several weeks, especially, um, we can't, none of us can do any of this by ourselves, right? So we have to really lean on our team members, and trust our team members to help us uh, accomplish our goals. So that's been something that I've really been working on, and uh, over the last couple of weeks, especially, been really starting to see some growth in that.
All right, my connection is unstable, so we'll see how this goes, okay? Uh so I do wanna point out, like speaking on what Forrest said, for last question, I did say that like Forrest is one of the people that I've learned a lot from, and something that I have learned a lot from him on is like patience and thoughtfulness. And I know that you said that it's kind of hard to get in tune with your emotions. I feel that on a very personal level. But I think you've been doing a great job, and you've learned a lot from that. But to answer this question, I think that I'm currently going through the most difficult decision I've made as a leader, and I think that that decision is to actually step down as the leader of my club, right? I've been leading SSL in some capacity since I was a sophomore, right? I was a president my sophomore year, vice president my junior year. And I think that it truly is time for me to step down to one, get some new blood in, right? And two, I want to start focusing on myself, right? As a leader, you have to focus on everyone else. You have to provide for everyone else. And that is amazing. I love doing that, and I don't want to stop. But in order to kind of make sure that I am staying on track for the skill growth that I want for myself, I have to step down so that I can focus on myself. I will still help the next e-board, because I can't truly get away from leadership positions as much as I probably should. Um, so I'll definitely be there in some capacity, helping them out with whatever they need. But it's definitely been a hard decision over these past few months to kind of say, hey, I am going to step away from essentially what is my child. So yeah.
Yeah, I think I can relate to just about every single lesson that all of these great leaders have mentioned. I think I can think of my own instances for everything, but what I'd like to focus on for a difficult decision has to do with our hackathon we recently held. I think it's one thing to recognize the decisions that we make and the difficulties that come with being a leader and making those decisions. But I think at some point, it's also very difficult to recognize places where no matter what you do, you cannot change the outcome. Understanding that there are decisions that are out of your, or I guess there's a decision that you can make that can help or hurt a situation, but the final say or the direction that that decision goes is not in your hands. And I bring this up because we were recently dealing with some budget cuts for our hackathon, and those kind of came very far into the process of planning that hackathon. We got news quite late of that. And then when you get news that late, it's like, oh, now we got to rush to find more sponsors, right? We're not going to get the money that we think we need. And so navigating that situation is incredibly difficult, especially when, on Galvin's point, I had 3 assignments due, I had 3 exams due, not due. And that too, like the exams that they were, I had my a 3004, which isn't crazy. But then I had malware analysis and reverse engineering and cryptography and mobile security, which were the 2 hardest exams I've ever taken in my life. And I had 2 malware and RE um, assignments also due like the week prior, and then that exact weekend, another crypto assignment. And then you still have to manage not just the like sponsorship details that I have to deal with for, or the funding like problem that I'm having, but also still overseeing the overall hackathon progress is as like my members are continuing to make progress. And then on top of that, the overall progress of the club. After the hackathon, we had a professional development night we held the day after. The day after that, we had a fundraiser we were organizing for. And the day after that, we had another event that the Department of Computer Science personally asked, I know me and Ronald, to not only set up a tour for a new CS board member, but also um, organize like a talk for her. And so there was just a lot going on, and then I had my exams, and then to find out your budgets are a lot lower than you think they are, and then now I have to call up all these people and figure out what can I do, like how can I make this possible? Because we also another thing, which this is kind of like the like it's good, but like in this situation it's bad, but it's good. We tripled the numbers of our previous hackathon. So we had 60 people come roughly, and we saw 180 total participants. We hosted the largest hackathon ever on LSU campus, which is great. But now I gotta feed 180 people. Now I gotta now I gotta organize for 180 people to have mentors and then have enough personnel to not only run the event, but also run around and correct any last minute difficulties that we will 100% deal with. And that was a very, very, very difficult time. On Galvin's point, I don't think I slept or honestly, in all honesty, didn't really eat that entire week. I just did not have the time, and I was trying to make sure I was still getting good grades on my exams, and then I was fulfilling the needs that we need for the hackathon, and then the needs that we need for the week after the hackathon and all of the events. And then also, like on top of that, since this was last week, this week I'm attending a conference. So then also, developing myself professionally so that I'm able to like have a fulfilled resume. And then I'm also doing 4 CTFs this week, preparing for the CT. I could keep going. But it's just a very, very difficult type of thing to understand that regardless of what I do, at the end of the day, the sponsorship is in the hands of our sponsors. Whether they decide to give us money or not, whether they decide that we are worth investing in or not, that's not something I can really do anything about other than like I was already doing, call everyone up every day. I'm not an anxious person. I've always been kind of sound, I guess, in myself. But the amount of anxiety I had calling up all those sponsors, knowing that every single rejection I get is another step further away from hosting our hackathon to the degree that I would like to hold it to, was just like I think I was telling some of my board members, I felt like I was punched in the gut, and then I was having like anxiety at the same time. Then I also wanted to throw up. Never felt like that ever before in my life. First and like only time. And I hope I never feel like that ever again. But I was we ended up getting enough funding to do everything to the bare minimum. We had to make some cuts in some places, but at the end of the day, understanding like I did the absolute best I could. I lost sleep over it. I lost time over it, but that was the kind of the best situation possible. And even if it wasn't, to be honest, the level that I wish it would have been, that I was expecting and hoping it would come out to, kind of letting it go and not dwindling on that, I think is a really big lesson that I've kind of learned. Yeah.
I want to add on that to that. So essentially, like, it might sound discouraging to others to hear that, like there's a lot of sacrifices, especially when it comes to our sleep. But at the very end of the day, I feel like this kind of goes for every leader out here. And not only just in this call, but no matter what we do, at the end of the day, it's always this super rewarding feeling when people, talk about how great your event just kind of become and hope the best thing that I've like heard many times, like, like, oh, we should do this again next year. And like that's just something that you want to hear and something that, you're going in the step into the right direction. So all the hard work that, leaders put in, it's always valuable. And there's always something to gain from it, if not from like an experience standpoint. You gain it from like giving other people opportunities, and especially I know like you guys are like a professional development club. It kind of helps them boost their resumes and kind of teaches them to kind of like try new things and be a little bit experimental. And I remember Jacob talking about like being a perfectionist, and sometimes like yes, we're like super perfectionist out here, and we want to make things perfect, and not only for ourselves but for our general body members as well. And I think like no matter what we do, um, it is like super valuable, and a super rewarding experience to be able to cater to our members.
Absolutely. I want to add a quick point onto that. It was a very stressful time, but I completely agree. I think the feedback that we got after the hackathon regarding how great the event was 100% made it worth it in my eyes, in my opinion. And um, I hope that doesn't detract people from the from being on a board or trying to run, but um, they're sacrifices, right?
Yeah, I also want to throw something in real quick about it because yes, it can all sound very discouraging, some of the things that we're talking about, but truly, like they're saying, Galvin and Narushi, like at the end of the day, and going back to what I said about the perfectionist thing, it's like if it doesn't pan out the way that I had maybe envisioned or wanted it to, I'm like, thinking the absolute worst, like, oh, I failed, not only myself, but my team, the committee who helped plan this, the general body and all the participants involved and stuff. But then really like when you get that feedback after the fact and you see that um, everyone really enjoyed their time and had a really great experience from it. Um, and to see that like all your sacrifice and hard work really did pay off and you really were able to create something that was great for so many people. Uh, that truly does make it all worth it for me at the end of the day.
I also want to say something. I think when we do talk about this stuff, from our perspective, it may seem like a lot of things are not going well, or a lot of things are not, doing as much as we like would hope. I'm sure that's happened to a lot of everybody in here. You think something, and then this thing happens, but everybody else on the outside, they don't really see that. What they see is actually a really great event on like 99% of the time. It's like a really good event. No one actually understands what's going on behind the scenes, and so us worrying about what we're trying to do, what we're trying to accomplish, it's not a deal that like that takes away from everybody else's experience, right? Whenever they're attending the event, whenever they're interacting with us, and whenever they're interacting with their friends and their other members, um, the event for the most part is a good event. And I think having that realization, um, for being a leader, takes away a lot of the stress. At least for me personally, I learned to let things go, or understand that there are things out of my control, but also people usually have fun, and I think that's just human nature at some point. If they're able to come together, socialize, have fun at an event that you have, um, it makes that experience really good as well.
Yeah, and to add on to Forest, essentially, like there's always what you could do to improve your events, you know. You might not have this event and you might not see it as something that panned out well, but you know, other people do. But also you could take a lot of what you didn't think went well in that event and improve from there. And you're able to make an event that maybe will bring in and attract a lot more people than what you have right now. So there's always room for improvement, you know. Never, you know, it's always about perspective and how you see things. So if you're able to see things well, then you're able to take this quote unquote bad event that you think is bad, but you know, other people don't think it's bad, and make it a lot more better to how you would like to see it. So yeah.
All right. Thank you all. I also just want to add on with the hackathon. It is the only event that I've been spending so much time on it. Honestly, I didn't have time to shower with it, but seeing from participants' feedback and then just seeing how the event goes out, it's really fulfilling experience. So I would encourage everybody who wants to be looking into leadership to also don't be discouraged from our advice. And just to wrap up, the last question is going to be what advice would you give to students who want to get more involved, but also feel hesitant about stepping into a leadership position?
So, I'm gonna start off by saying just go for it, try it out. Um, Student leadership and I remember Fars mentioned it earlier where it's kind of like a lower risk that you're at a student level and you're not like, working in an industry where there's higher risk involved, like you could, I don't know, potentially blow something up. But here you have like a lower risk, you can make mistakes, and this is the time to learn. Um, I know that like many people don't feel like they're prepared for a role, and that's not you're not supposed to go into it like super like prepared and knowing everything. You're supposed to learn as you kind of continue, and that to some people might sound like, it's contradictory. Like, when you see a leader that stands up there, you think that they have like all the knowledge in the world, that they know everything, but no, that's not really how it worked. I had a lot to learn myself, coming from like learning with different personality types and knowing that not many people are as outgoing as I am. I think that's like something that I kind of like took a big lesson on, but I think that everyone should kind of give it a shot. Leadership is something that is truly inspiring, not only to others, but to yourself as well. I think it's a very much worth it experience. And, I'm a shout out the two people who kind of like got me into leadership in the first place. Their name is Nick and Sophia. They kind of like brought me into like trying out leadership for the first time and trying new things. And I'm pretty glad that they gave me this opportunity or like kind of like swayed me into it because, you learn a lot. And I kind of hope that whoever decides to step into leadership because of our advice kind of like takes the same like kind of trajectory and route that I did, where I kind of learned a lot and kind of like, grew as a person.
So there's a lot of things you could take away from being a leader, and you know, there's always a lot of things that make you feel hesitant. But I'd say it's very important that you know, become positive. Be aware that whenever you are a leader, you might, you know, suffer sometimes burnout, but there's always things to overcome that, like being able to delegate and being able to communicate effectively with your team, make sure that things do go well. And if they don't, that's okay. That's completely fine. It's okay to have failure. You learn from failure. And if you don't have failure, then what are you going to learn from, you know? So just be positive about a lot of things. There's always a lot of things you can learn from. Be communicative with people, you know? People can't read your mind, you can't read theirs. So make sure you communicate how you feel and how sometimes you'll be able to hear back from what they feel. And then another thing that you might want to take in when you become a leader is that you know, things take initiative. Make sure that you get things done, and you know, there's a lot of things you could get done, but make sure you formulate your goal, what you want to get done, and take the initiative to get that done, and then start going on to your next goal, so that you could become an effective leader. And sometimes you're able to do a lot of things, and you're able to represent your student organization well, and also yourself well, and LSU. So there's a lot of things to learn as being a leader. So, take and go with what you have.
I really can't say much. I should have gone first. So these guys don't take all of the thoughts that I have in my head. Um, I think it is a lot of just taking the first step, kind of just getting into it, diving in. Um, Especially if you see someone reaching out to you, they're reaching out to you for a specific reason. They see something in you that you may not see in yourself, and I think that's a really important thing. And one quote that I've been trying to I guess fit into this conversation is a quote from Dune, actually. Um, is it says a great man doesn't seek to lead, he's called to it. So in perspective, like for that, it's you may not feel or you may not think that you are built for the role, or that you can contribute to being a leader or be as good a leader, in general, but it comes with the job. um, it's kind of like a job in of itself, right? Companies don't expect you to walk into the job knowing every single thing about not just the company but the role and all the team members and what exactly you're supposed to be doing. um, Learning is a part of human nature. Failure is a part of human nature. You kind of just um, you just have to dive in and see how everything's going to go. And I think just taking that first step, trying it out. There's a reason why our boards have multiple positions. There's like maybe some boards have an exec and a cabinet, or just those positions that are not as tough as president or vice president. They're not just to help the board out, to plan events or to delegate tasks. They're also there to provide an entry level role for people who don't who feel like they don't have enough experience. Um, and those roles are specific, like they're easy for you to get into. For the most part, you don't have to know much about it. You can kind of learn about the organization more, grow as a leader, and then if you feel like you've contributed a lot, you want to contribute back to the community, you can step up into an exec position, with all the stuff that you learned throughout the year. It kind of comes with just trying it out, just seeing how it goes. um, and some people may think that I just was born as charismatic as I am right now, but freshman year, I was a stuttering little baby. You should have seen my speech for webmaster that year. I was like stumbling, mumbling, fumbling. It was an interesting speech to say the least. But I think it was bad because the guy in front of me, he had a website and I didn't have a website, and so it kind of, what is the word? Scared me. Yeah, it scared me, and so that's why I started starting and stuff like that. Um, but it's just, try it out. You never know.
Yeah. Yeah, going off of that, just I think something I greatly struggled with was kind of an imposter syndrome, and I'm sure everyone else here has, and I'm in my second term as president, and I still every other week think I'm not the right person to be doing this, or whatever the case may be. But um, I think it's important to kind of be able to push past that feeling, um, and really just allow yourself to, like everyone said here, kind of go through a trial by fire, and allow yourself to experience those failures. And not only are you going to learn and grow from it, but it's going to make the success that much sweeter, I think. And something everyone's kind of touched on, I feel like, is all of us up here, like Faris said, we're pretty charismatic, I feel like, but that has not always been the case. I think we've all kind of grown into that over time. Um, And still, even now, like Galvin was talking about earlier, as much as you may see like a leader up there in front of a room full of people speaking and think they've got it all figured out and they have it all together, I don't know what's going on half the time. Like I really don't. It's just the truth. And that's just the reality. And I say that it's funny, but I say that to really help you guys to kind of realize, if you are someone who's aspiring to get more involved and take on a greater leadership role, um, you don't have to already have it all figured out, because even those of us who have been doing this for a while don't have it all figured out. That's just the nature of the beast. Um, and just, push past that fear and that discomfort, especially if you do have those feelings of wanting to get more involved and you're just hesitant. I really encourage you to push past that, because you'll find so much great opportunity on the other side of it.
I think that was amazing, Jacob. Amazing words of advice from everyone, really. So I'm gonna have to see if I can spin this a different way, because y'all have all given such good advice. Um, when when I was in my first year of being a president, I met this freshman, right, named Cam, a really smart guy, really amazing guy. And so he was also really timid, right? Didn't know how to talk to people, wasn't charismatic. I've been charismatic since I was out of the womb, of course. Like you can't pull the charisma out of me. So what I did was kind of like Galvin said, I kind of forced him to just present to people, just start leading people, right? Force them to jump into it. That is kind of an unorthodox way of doing things from my part. But like, I feel like if you just jump into leadership positions, no matter how small, right? You don't even have to be on e-board. You can just help the e-board do different tasks. And that is a leadership position right there. That is you like kind of dipping your toes into leadership positions. Then it can help you to become better at leadership, right? On the imposter syndrome side, everybody here, I am jealous of all of you. You all are way better leaders than I am. I'm not gonna lie. I do things just kind of as they come. If you see me like for my SSL meetings, if you see me on the podium teaching someone that day, I probably made that presentation the hour before the meeting. Uh, so I really do things ad hoc and things like that. But you have to really figure out what makes you comfortable as a leader, whether that's doing things ad hoc or that's like planning in advance. And um you have to try and get comfortable with getting uncomfortable, right? That is the main thing that we do as leaders every single day. We are comfortable with getting uncomfortable because, like Jacob said, we don't know what's going on half the time. Uh, and honestly, I wouldn't have it any other way. If I knew everything, then why would I be here, right? It is always very fun, like stepping into a new day, stepping into new challenges. And I guess the final few things I'm gonna say is like leadership roles look good on your resume. Let's be honest. They look really good on your resume, right? They not only help you become a better person who can deal with people, but they help you learn how to communicate. And that is something that employers are looking for whenever they're looking to hire someone. It's not just your technical skills that's going to get you a job. It is how you can deal with people, how you can communicate with people, right? That'll help you to land a role in whatever you want to be in.
Yeah. It's hard going last for this question. Um, I think I'll kind of take the advice and spin it and talk more about like practical steps you can actually take, how to implement the pieces of advice everyone's given. I know many of our clubs now offer or have been offering programs where you can join either committees, programs where you can join as an ambassador, programs where you can join as a mentor for different things. So if you're feeling a little hesitant to maybe jump directly into being a board member or maybe you're wanting to do this ahead since elections do happen once every academic year. If you're wanting to kind of get ahead on that, I would say take advantage of the opportunities that we try to create for you guys. So those ambassador positions, those committee positions, those mentorship positions, and start reaching out, attend the club meetings, talk to us. I think that's kind of the biggest thing. Some of the best advice I could probably give is get in contact with the people who you look up to, with the people who you may feel do have everything figured out and how they know how to do things. I know that's what I did my freshman year. I reached out to a lot of the existing boards of different clubs, and I got to know all the people, a lot of the people that are sitting here with me on this call. And so um yeah, don't be scared, don't be shy. Take the first few steps, learn about what you want to do, what you want to try, and then go take it. Yeah.
All right, I have to come back on that because
Dang it, I was gonna. You got it. You got
my
it.
my speech was terrible. Let me make up for that. Um, definitely do everything that Arushi just said. If you can, try and shadow someone, right? This is good advice whether you're on an internship and you're just trying to figure out a specific role, or whether you're at school. Try and shadow someone, and just kind of follow them along throughout their day to see what they're doing, right? You may find out that you would prefer certain leadership roles over others. And that is something that you can figure out just by shadowing, right? You don't have to actually be in those positions. Um, also, I think we all make it sound really easy to get into leadership positions, like oh, just do it and things like that. But like we do understand, because a lot of us have gone through it, that it is hard, right, to get out of your shell and to participate in these things. So please do not think that we're trying to make this sound as easy as do not think that we're trying to make this sound easier than it actually is, right? We do understand that, and we are literally just saying get into it because that is truly the best way to do it. If you doubt yourself, then you're never going to do it, right? If you look at others and say, oh, they're better leaders than me, I'll never make it, then you're never going to go and hop into a leadership position when you could be amazing at it, right? So yeah, first you can.
I wanted to talk about, I guess, like three just points. One is we talked about failure, we talked about just diving in, but I don't think we talked about support. Your team is there for you, and your team is always going to be there. Like, it's the point of the team. You're there to rely on them. They're there to rely on you, and it's a two-way street. That's why communication is really important as well, which is like my second point. You want to make sure that you're able to talk to them about any issues that you have, any problems that you have, any failures that you may have, and even the successes. Right? It's always good to share the good things, and talk it out with each other and grow closer through that as well. So anytime you're having trouble, you're always going to have at least like 5, 10 other people who are there to support you. So don't think that you're alone going through all these failures and try to do it all alone. There is a team there to help you. I already said this, but communication, and I think being passionate as well. We can see when a person is passionate. We can see when they truly care about a club's organization, or like an organization's missions, about giving back to the community. Um, and it doesn't matter if you don't have those skills. They're teachable skills. There's a reason why I said that I never really spoke up as much my freshman year, but now I'm here on a podcast. Like, these are trainable skills, and so like the main thing is having that drive, having that passion, and truly doing what you love, because I don't think any of us would be here if we didn't love what we did. And lastly is tying into that, being willing to learn. um Always having that, like, I guess, interest or curiosity, which is like also with what Ronald said about shadowing. Like, if you just learn about how people are working, how they're acting as leaders, what they're doing to be those mentors that you look up to. And shadowing does not mean stalking them, by the way. It means everything should be consensual. Um, so that's just a note I wanted to say. But yeah, like, just willingness to learn. Don't be afraid to ask any questions. And all these tips are also really good for the industry as well. If you're ever looking for internships or like interviews, having all of these qualities are really good for those companies, especially as behavioral interviews that, like, you may have. Because they see your resume, they see technical skills, but they don't really see the soft skills, which is what the interview is mainly for. And growing and jumping into these positions helps you to develop those a lot more than if you were just going throughout college normally. So yeah, just wanted to touch on those things.
I would
I'm
like to
going to
add.
add.
Arushi,
Oh,
you want to go first?
yeah, I can go first. I want to add one more sub point on that willing to learn point. I think being curious and taking the steps to go learn about what you want to learn about are big, but also there should be a retroactive or retrospective step there where you take feedback and you learn from that feedback. I think feedback is probably the biggest way most of us learn once we get into these positions. So being able to learn or being willing to learn to be able to get into the positions, and then once you make it to the positions, or maybe even when you're shadowing and you're learning and you're maybe helping out a little bit, being able to take some feedback back and actually implementing that. And one thing I'm personally very big on feedback. I don't think I could have reached this position if I hadn't like actively been always seeking out feedback. And to Faris's point for industry, it looks great if you can not only take feedback, but also quickly turn around and implement that feedback. And that also looks great when you're trying to become a leader. If I can see that um, I just interviewed this person, they told me this, and I gave them this feedback on their interview, and immediately the next day I saw them, and I'm seeing that they're putting this effort in, or they're trying to do this, or they're coming out of their shell. And so I think not just being willing to go out of the way to learn, but also be willing to take a step back and think about the things people say regarding how you've learned or how you've been doing different things, and then expanding on that and getting better yourself. Over
I'd
to you,
like to
Andrew.
say one more thing. Um, a lot of these leadership positions require you to vote, people to vote you to be in. And just because you didn't get that 1 year that you run, that shouldn't make you not want to run next year, you know? You should be able to just, if you didn't get that leader position, try another one. Or don't try another one and be more involved in the club and get you, be more involved so that everyone around you sees that you value your club this much. Whenever you go into industry and later on in life, people want to see you more involved, and sometimes you're not involved as a leader. You don't need to be as involved as a leader. You could be more involved as just a regular member, and from there you could learn from your leaders, not stalk them like like Faris said, but learn from them. And sooner or later you're able to get into that position. If you keep on striving and wanting to be in that position, you will get it. Just make sure you put in that time and effort and take that initiative. So yeah, just there's a lot to learn from a lot of these leaders here, so just take what you want. You could be better than us.
And also another thing I want to add, I think one of the coolest things about being in leadership is that sometimes, I don't know if this happened to y'all, but sometimes people will ask you a question and you have to answer it like almost immediately. You just learn to be really good at winging things. Because I know Forrest has asked me many questions in the past, and how many times have I wung it? Probably 7 out of 10. And he may not know that. But something that I've learned about myself is that, man, I'm like really good at saying an answer and then like sticking with it because I'm like, what do I say here? Oh, here's an answer. So if there's something that is really cool is that you have so much experience to gain as a leader. And one of the greatest skills I learned from it was my speaking ability being improved and especially improving my diction and kind of like being better at decision making because I think like that's a really important thing. Like I feel like sometimes people are very indecisive about things, but over time I kind of learned to kind of know what works best and kind of like instead of thinking too long about it because I feel like sometimes when you prolong a decision, it kind of like dilutes the whole, process or kind of harms the rhythm. But when you get into leadership, you get a lot better at kind of like being set on some sort of like goal, like, like Andrew said, like about like, sometimes like whenever you're like making a car, you gotta like make a decision on the spot. What kind of like parts should I buy immediately, or like what kind of like what I don't know, something about like carbon fiber or like some nose cone stuff that he always talks about all the time. I hear him talk about it all the time. And I think like some of these decisions aren't like always so clear, but sometimes you have to make it on the spot and you learn a lot from the experience of being a leader. And again, it might not always be easy, but I think that the process itself is really fun. And especially when it comes to being a student learning, and the willingness to learn, the passion to learn, you gain a lot more than you lose. By lose, I mean by sleep. But like, but that's like small part. You can like sleep earlier. Well, what does that say? Talk to me after. I can't read. Anyway, my glasses are off, so that doesn't exist. So, anyways, that's that's that. That. Okay.
All
Really
right,
quick, I feel like
go
everyone's
ahead.
just jumping in, but one last thing. Be yourself. I think you can take that away from everyone in this call right now, or any leaders that you interact with, is to be yourself. Forrest was talking earlier about people being able to pick up on if you're passionate or not. And in that same way, people can pick up on if you're being genuine or not. And I think it's important to be yourself, especially because um, if you get voted on for an e-board position, uh, people voted for you, not for someone else. So why would you be anyone but yourself?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And thank you all for giving y'all's experiences, advice to all of us. We really appreciate y'all for taking your time and be here on the weekend, nonetheless. So thank you for all the listeners who stayed till the end. We hope that you gain a lot of knowledge from this talk. And we also look forward to y'all for listening to our next podcast. So that is all. Thank y'all for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Yes,
Thank
thank you
Yeah.
so
you.
much.
Yeah, yes, this was very fun. Thank you all.
I had to wake up out of my sleep for this, yo.
At
That's how
4
you. That's how you
p.m.
know
He woke
he's
up at 4
dedicated.
p.m.
Yes, dedicated to the craft.
Very dedicated.